We left New Canaan on Thursday afternoon and drove to Boston to Logan Airport and stayed overnight at Comfort Inn there. And then yesterday we flew from Boston to Frankfurt overnight. And this morning, which is now Friday, we flew from Frankfurt to Kiev. Our flight was a bit late. It was a long wait in Frankfurt. It was 4 or 5 hours between flights. It's a beautiful day here. We've just arrived. It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon after a 7-hour time change. So it'll be 10 o'clock on Friday morning in New Canaan. This ship is absolutely identical to maybe a little longer, but as far as layout and cabins and restaurants and libraries and bars, it's identical to the ship we were on from St. Petersburg to Moscow last year. I guess in the true Russian way, once they've designed one, the state makes them all the same. We're going to go a little walking tour of the town now at 5 o'clock, just to get a little bit acclimatized. It's a beautiful day. It must be about 80 or 85 degrees out. Just lovely, even at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Somebody just pointed out here, you've got this lovely statue, and behind it a McDonald's across the street, and a little bit up to the right a Golden Dome. All here, all incorporated in one. For supper, we're just going up on a little walking tour of the lower town. We're just crossing over the main highway. You can see our ship over there on the right. 5 o'clock traffic. I understand from the guide that here in Ukraine, religion is very much alive and well again, and that a lot of these churches are being restored after the Soviet period, where so many of them were demolished. I believe in the couple of days we're going to be in Kiev, we're going to see an awful lot of these buildings. I understand that tomorrow we're going to take the funicular up, and you can get up to close to St. Andrews, but the lady said that this is the best view that we will get of the church. Today is Saturday, the 28th of July, and this is going to be our city tour of Kiev. We started off here at 9 o'clock this morning, and we're going to be doing the city tour all morning. Kiev is a city of about 2.4 million people. So it was originally settled about in the 1600 years ago, I believe. And it is really a crossroads between the East and the West as far as commerce is concerned. Many of the churches here in Kiev have been destroyed over the years, and particularly many of them were destroyed during the Soviet era. St. Sophia here is one of them that, and I believe this is part of the World Heritage Organization. It was never destroyed and is still maintained. We're going to go in a visit of it later on the interior. In this large square, again, under communism, a lot of the buildings were torn down, including St. Michael's here, which was taken down to build another communist office building, but they had all the records of it, and they have rebuilt and restored the building just in the year 2000.
Homes were built after the design of the famous architect #1 in this country, Rastrelli. Was Italian by origin, but who spent a lot of time in Russia most of his life.
During the period of the Soviet occupation, St. Andrews here was used mostly as a museum. As I've said, many of the churches were either closed or torn down, but Sophia has been returned, or St. Andrews here has been returned to the people. And as we just saw when we went in there now, they do have service, regular service. Here we are in St. Sophie's. She's going to get the tickets and we're going to go, I'm sure, on a tour of the cathedral in here. It's interesting here at St. Sophie's, they've taken the plaster off some of the walls to show you what the original church looked like.
Usually, in monasteries, there were 7 structures around. And when you go to more
On the property, this is the bell tower over here to the left of the cathedral. Well, here we are from the front of St. Sophia, looking back over at St. Andrews. I think I took a picture of this earlier in the day when we looked the other way. We've just been through St. Sophia. It's really a museum today. It's used occasionally for services, such as Christmas Day and maybe Easter time and special occasions, but it's generally a museum at the present time. The bells of St. Vladimir. We were just in time, but it's just noon time. Visit the cave monastery here this morning. I hope we can get in and around. There's a little bit of walking, and they tell us not only is there a little bit of walking, but some of it's outdoors. But we'll just have to see how it all works. The guide was just explaining that this monastery was really the center of the Christian church here in Kiev, and everybody wanted to visit the monastery, particularly the caves, from the miracle sense that the bodies here of the monks when they died and were placed in the caves were naturally mummified. And in those days they didn't know why, but that was a mystery and a miracle, considered a miracle. And as you can see, it's raining.
for the construction of these infirmary here. The infirmary for men and old monks.
This cupola has,
The infirmary led a separate line, and this church was attended only by those who lived in the infirmary.
There are some animals, look, elephants, peacocks. The artist who painted them never saw these animals, and he didn't know the real size of them. That's why peacocks are the same size as elephants. Shall follows you with his eyes.
No, they had some murals, but they were lost. Oh, and there was some difficult period for the church. So in the 18th century, it wasn't redone. Yes. There, over there, you can see another interesting.
The caves. That's there at the foot of the hill, the monastery started. And there we will go to see the shrines of Thames for those who want to see them. What else can be seen from here? You can see the lady with the sword, the monument to Mother Ukraine, and around the monument there is the territory of the Museum of History of the Second World War. In the pedestal of the monument is the Museum of History of the War. You can also see Patton Bridge from here, the bridge constructed in 53 or Velvet Bridge, and it links the right bank of Kiev. We are now on historic right bank, and the left bank, New Kiev. The buildings there were constructed after 50s. Well, actually, it became the territory of Kiev short before the Second World War, and nowadays a quarter part of Kiev's population lives there.
this is just a great picture of the Coptic dome, all gold gilded. That church has been was blown up and has been rebuilt, and it was blown up in 1941. It's very interesting that this whole complex was really devoted to elderly sick monks. And we've just been down in the caves where in traditional ways the monks were buried in the caves, but after 3 years the corpses were left with pretty much just bones, and they were taken away and sorted. In these caves, a mummification occurred, which was almost perfect. And we've just been down to see a whole lot of mummified monks. That's right. These fellows had died, and the atmosphere was there, the humid atmosphere that just made for a very logical mummification. We're climbing back up to the main cathedral here now, and it's just about 10 to 12. And I think a lot of these carrion bells are approaching 12 noon. know what's going to happen. In half an hour, we're leaving Kiev. We've been here for 2 days, and it's time to start the river cruise. I promised that if you wanted one of these, I was going to give you a copy of this when I get it all done. She's already got the name and address. Well, here it is, Sunday evening. We've been here since Friday afternoon. We're pulling out now, Sunday, 7 p.m. We're leaving Kiev. We've had a nice 3 days here, and I hope I've recorded a fair amount of our experiences. They've made it very pleasant for us here. And we've had really good weather, except for a little rain this morning. It's a beautiful evening, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And we're going to be pulling out of here right now. We're going to be leaving Kiev. We've had an opportunity to learn an awful lot about the history of the country. This riverboat, we had 3 of them stacked up here together, and we were the middle boat, and this fellow was closest to the water. So we had to move him aside as we pull out away from the dock here. Well, it's bye-bye Kiev. It's just taken about 10 minutes to pull the boats out here. That boat that was third is going to pull in. Gives you some idea of the size of these river cruising boats. And there, of course, is the harbor that we've just left, or the dock that we've just left. As we leave here, you can see the Arch of Freedom between Russia and the Ukraine. And over thing I hear the lights, if I get them, is the soccer stadium. It has seating capacity for about 60,000, 70,000 people. There they are. There's the light. Sorry, it took me a little bit to get up to them. That's the lights from, and of course, St. Andrews. Here's some pictures. We come down the river of the cave monastery that we were at this morning, and I have some pictures of in the rain. And over here is the statue, probably built during the Russian period of Mother Ukraine. Even somebody called it Mother Russia or Little Russia, but Mother Ukraine. Up here, sitting high on the hill over the river. And the cave monastery. Just saying, all the spires of the churches. That's one thing we have to say in Kiev. There were certainly an awful lot of churches. And many of us commented on the revival of Christianity here, especially Orthodox Christianity. It seems to be really on a rise here in Ukraine after it was subdued so much during the Russian era. Well, here we are under power. We've just had a very nice dinner, and it's about 9 o'clock. And here in the west is the setting sun. You can see we're almost going due east here down the river. Looks like tomorrow's going to be a nice day. Well, I'd actually gone down and put my camera away for the evening, and Liz and I are just out here in the breezes on the deck before we go to bed. And this beautiful full moon came up here. So I went down and I thought I should get a picture of it. Actually, last week flying over from Boston to Frankfurt, that was what, Liz, Thursday night? The moon was almost full there. So here it is, the full moon. It's Sunday evening. Janet and Mary, and that was very interesting. That was really very interesting. Janet's husband, who passed away a number of years ago, but he was a psychologist in Eastern Canada, in Ontario, and he was the one that interviewed me in the profiling, Bud Smith. It was really a very small world. This is Monday morning, July the 30th, It's nearly 7 o'clock in the morning, so we've been traveling or motoring all night since 7 p.m. last night when we left Kiev. It's the ship does about 12 miles an hour, so we must, with the locks and all, we must be about 100 miles down the river. From Kiev down to the Baltic is about 658 miles, so we're getting near 20% of the distance. There's 5 or 6 locks here on the Dnieper River. The locks also have hydroelectric plants in them, so they produce a lot of hydroelectric power on the river also. It widens out very wide in places, as it did here this morning, and it looks like it's going to be a rather nice day. We're going to be motoring all day today, not a number of lectures, etc., but nothing in the way of sightseeing on shore. All morning, we've been traveling on the Krnchenchuk Reservoir. I think I've pronounced that right. In about an hour's time, we're going to come to one of the dams and locks. I've just taken a picture of this little fishing boat here, and I don't know if it's going to show, but the water is just full of green algae. You can almost walk on it. It seems so bad. I think we're going to have a presentation here on Ukrainian crafts. And I think they're all down here on
Welcome to our Arts and Crafts lecture. I'm amazed to see so many gentlemen in here.
Курочку рябу, которая объясняла возникновение яйца и возникновение Земли.
So there was a fairy tale in Ukraine about a chicken and the egg, and it explained the meaning of the egg in Ukraine.
Жили дедушка и бабушка, и у них была курочка.
So there were grandfather and grandmother, and they had a hen.
Курочка снесла яйцо, но яйцо не обыкновенное, а золотое.
So once the egg appeared, and it was not just an egg, it was golden egg.
Но проблема, яйцо никто не мог разбить. И в один момент мышка бежала, зацепила хвостом и разбилось яйцо.
But there was a problem. No one from them could break the egg. But once the mouse was going by the egg, and by her tail, she just she was passing by, and the egg fell from the shelf, and it was broken.
Бабушка и дедушка плачут, что же делать, как же яйцо разбилось?
And then grandmother and grandfather started to cry because the egg was cracked.
Мышка говорит, не плачьте, я снесу вам новое яйцо, но уже обыкновенное.
And the mouse says, don't cry, I will make a new egg for you, but it won't be golden, it will be just an egg.
Люди говорят, что эта сказка описывает появление мира, что когда яйцо это упало, раскололось, получились тучи, земля, вода и небо.
So, and the people explain the story in the following way, that it symbolizes the beginning of the world. So when the egg cracked and fell on the floor, the world appeared. Water, skies, clouds, and earth.
Говорят, что курочка ряба, она имеет черный цвет с белыми пятнами.
And they say that this hen, which we call kurachka raba, is of two colors, white and black.
То есть она выступает как космос.
So it's the symbol of space.
А мышка это символ природы.
And the mouse is the symbol of nature.
И в определенный момент под силами природы Земля появилась.
And at appropriate moment, by means of the forces of nature, the earth appeared.
Для Украины яйцо имеет традиционный характер. Есть очень много видов росписи яйца. Сейчас я покажу.
Well, for Ukraine, egg is a traditional souvenir, and there are a lot of types of it, and a lot of types of decorations and painting on the egg.
Well, we're just about to enter another one of the locks. This, I believe, is the deepest lock. We're going to drop the ship 108 feet here, which is really quite an extraordinary thing. It's been interesting as we've come down from Kiev that it's been really a series of 5 massive reservoirs, anywhere from 100 to 150 miles long and anywhere from 10 to 20 miles wide. All of these locks have both a hydroelectric dam and, of course, the lock itself. This one is going to take a half hour to drop the ship, and she's going to drop 108 feet. This is rather fascinating. Actually, we're going to go down enough, I think, that this is a bridge over the top of here, and when we go down 100 feet, you're going to be able to get the ship underneath this bridge. This is rather fascinating. We estimate we've come down about 40 feet here now of the 108, and you know, I think we're going to go underneath this thing, and I think that's the beginning of the gate that we're seeing here now. I missed this a bit. They all cheered as the gates began to open down here. We were estimating over on the blocks here how each of these blocks was, how each, what the height of each of these blocks were, and they're around 9 or 10 feet. So we're down 10 blocks, and here we are, opening the gates. You can see up here, which I took earlier in the video, where we were up at the top. And somebody said you got to leave draft for another 15 feet for the boat. So this whole lock has got to be about 120 feet deep. I don't think I've ever been in a situation in a lock where you've gone underneath the bridge. There we are, right from the top where we were. As I work my way down 108 feet here, it's pretty as you look out through the gates, and water level just ahead of it is pretty level now with the. Oh, that's pretty impressive. Here we are. I guess I'll start the ship up in a minute. We're down to water level here. We've come down about 108 feet, they say. Well, I've come down here to the rear of the boat, and this will give you some idea of the massive size of this lock. It's interesting that this sailboat must have been came down at the same time with us. But there, as we pull out of the lock, I think I can see it all the way up to the top now. But that's been really quite an experience. This morning, which is now July 31st, Tuesday, 9 o'clock. It's a beautiful day. We've just arrived in the, just after the dam in the city of Zakopora. It's a real large industrial Soviet era town, really developed on the basis of the hydroelectric power from the lock and dam that we just went through. They tell us there are a beautiful big boulevard, Soviet designed city, about 850,000 people. Our ship is just docked, and here comes all the folks up.
Of Zaporozhye, as I told, this is one of the longest streets in Europe. And you can see there on your left the alley of glory devoted to those who participated in World War II. You can see that the street is rather wide. So, and a few words about the history of our city. She ordered to build the fortress to protect the bank of the Dnieper River from Turks, because because it was during Russian-Turkish war on
This is obviously the city square. I think, as I've said before, there's about 800 to 850,000 people in this large industrial Soviet town. They dropped us off here in the bus on a city tour this morning, just to see the city square here. And actually, if we look down in the distance from the fountain, there's all the local artists are displaying down here. This has got to be one of the biggest Lenin statues in the whole of Russia or the Ukraine. We're going over here to get a little lecture on the power plant and, of course, the dam that we just came through. We came down now Lenin Avenue. It's you probably can't pick it out in this picture, but they have all these parks developed, but they sure aren't kept up. It's very, very sad to see the maintenance level on all of these gardens and parks. The idea was there, but they've never been maintained well. I took this building earlier when we were coming through the lock. It's the second administration house for the lock here. It was built in the 1980s. We've just had a whole explanation of the power potential of this lock and this electrical generating station that's here. It was one of the largest in Europe for a long time, and the Germans destroyed it in when they retreated here in 1942 and 43, and it was all rebuilt by American engineers at that time. We're about to visit the Cossack Museum here on the island. The first record of the Cossacks here in the area in the 900s. So it'll be very interesting to see the inside of what this museum has to offer.
comparatively to others.
Да, так же, как и мужчина, если у него лежал медиа, они тоже будут выше социального уровня.
The same as the men. For example, if they had the stone in their grave, they were buried with the sword, so they considered to be of some higher level of society. So this is the reconstruction of all the arms, all the things that belonged to the Scythian soldier of that time. Of high level. There was a very famous trade way from Karachans into Greece. It was going from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea.
А вот эти участки Днепра была важная место для Европы между современными
Here on that place, it was very dangerous place because, as we said, there were a lot of rapids here. That was the territory of present from Dnipropetrovsk to Zaporozhye. There were 9 rapids here of Zaporozhian Cossacks. It was the Cossacks gathered about twice a year.
На Сечи собрались все запорожцы и выбираем кошевого атамана. Вот он, выбрали его, булаву в руку взял.
So all Cossacks of this island of Zaporozhye gathered together to choose hetman for them. And there is the hetman right in front of them with red clothes, and he is taking the symbol of hetman bulava.
Кого-то уже наказывают, вы видите, на Сечи что-то провинились, видимо, что-то украли, к позорному столбу привяжут и побьют.
As you can see, something has happened and somebody will be punished. We don't know what for, but you can see right behind of these people the pillars, so they will be tied with the ropes to that. The occupation period lasted for 2 years, and on the 14th of October, from the 13th to 14th of October, the left bank of the river was liberated.
До конца декабря освободили правый берег и остров Хортица.
Until the end of December, the island of Fortica and the right bank of the river was also liberated.
Освобождал наш город Юго-Западный фронт под командованием генерала армии Родиона Малиновского.
And our city was liberated by the army, at the head of which was the commander Rodion Malinovsky. So there are things which are right in front of you. These are the special models, the exhibits which were specially prepared for that.
И вот этого маленького, это настоящий. Маленький миномет.
But for only one weapon, which is situated on this site right here. This is original one. All the other.
From the museum here, you'll get a very good view of the Zakharosa Dam. And over here on the right, of course, is where the lock was. That dam was all blown up, as I said earlier, by the Germans as they retreated in 1943. And it was rebuilt by American engineers. The project manager on that, the American engineer, was given an order of Stalin for his work. Well, today is Wednesday, August the 1st. It's going to be another beautiful day, probably quite warm. It's about 6:30 in the morning. We went through the last of the locks, of the 6 locks early this morning, about 3:30. And now we're down in the delta of the Dnieper River. This morning, I think down here in the delta, we're going to go on a couple of small boats for a tour of the lower river here before we leave this afternoon for Sebastopol. It's interesting as we get down here, of course, now we're below the locks and the areas that were flooded for the power dams and everything. And all the shore has returned to its, or is not returned to, it's in its natural state down here, which frankly is prettier than it was further up the river. Well, we should be landing here in a few minutes. We're down here in the lower reaches of the river now. And we were supposed to land at 8 o'clock. It's about 10 after. You can see an awful lot of crane activity and barges. This is obviously Kherson. It's got to be a major transshipping point from the Black Sea up onto the riverboats. Because everywhere you go here, there's.
Well, the big ships can come in here, but some of them can't.
Can't make it up underneath the bridges, I guess.
Up the river.
Can't get up the river.
So they changed their
Change their cargo into the smaller ships.
Smaller ship that can go up the river.
Yeah. Well, we really thought these ships were going to be a lot smaller than this, but we're all on 2 of them. And we're going to out here on the delta of the river, and I understand to an island and to see some of the people and see some of their homes. It's interesting as we motor along here, all these small dachas along on the island. Liz was saying there's a lot of reeds in certain areas, and they kind of clear through to the reed. And the other thing that I hope that comes out is the water must be very shallow enclosed, because there are these long docks that come out, I guess, to bring their boats up to. And we were just saying there's even a couple of them that have chairs out on the docks. But there's just one after the other of these small dachas or summer cottages. Really quite pretty. I think I can catch this fellow out here. Come down a very narrow canal kind of like area here. This is a pretty little place. It's interesting as you come down this canal, there's all kinds of little houses down here. that colonnade. That siren you hear is this boat as we go around the corner. He turns on his siren. Just walk back from the boat in just a bit, and as we move in here, there's a whole little village and one of these houses that we're going to go in to see inside. They are very pretty, actually. This was a little surprise as you look around here. They presented a whole morning. What are you pouring, Mom?
Some dishes and of course our vodka, our national remedy. So we would ask you to drink vodka and our hostess wants to say salt. We're very glad to meet you, to see you here in our house. And due to our Ukrainian tradition, let's drink to your health. Because if we have health, we have everything. She will show us how to drink this way. And здоровье. The village consists of about 120 houses, and we are all together in one line. So one after one. While people live here, the life is very difficult here, especially in
These homes are almost all retirement homes, I think, Liz? And they allow you, this one where we have just come in, they've allowed us to come and look at their home. It's interesting, I just bought 2 nice bottles of vodka, $4 each, bought one for Ben. Here's a refrigerator. This young gal was the granddaughter of the lady who was our hostess. And Liz really thought, Liz has figured out she's about 12 years old, as far as we know. And I think that's her brother there, Liz, too. There's a retirement colony over here. And in the summertime, all the grandchildren come over to stay and visit with the grandparents. And here's a whole bunch of them here. Around when we were as we go out into the Black Sea here this evening, there's a mandatory life drill. It's interesting they didn't make us do this all the way on the river cruise, but now we go into the main sea. It's 6 p.m. in the evening, and they've made us all put our life jackets on, and I guess the officers of the ship will be around to make sure we've all done it right. Well, today is Thursday, August the 2nd. We've come across from the river delta, and we've been on the Black Sea really all night in quite a heavy swell. Although I must say that this boat has had a fair amount of stability to it. We're coming into Sevastopol here. He's pretty much on time. They said an 8:30 arrival. I think you can see the shore. It's as you can see, it's been a rainy, cloudy night with a fair amount of thunderstorms around. You can see the city over here now. Yeah, I think we've got a big church up on the building. Yeah, that's. I think I can zoom in on it. See if I can pick out the church. I think I've got it. There's porpoises off the starboard side of the boat here. Oh, there, I got them. I got some. There you are. Come on, jump again. Well, soon I think we'll be out of the wind and everything. We're just kind of entering the harbor here. Behind the breakwater. So they're saying as we enter the harbor here, there's a little pilot boat coming in alongside. So they're seeing the people that far into the harbor. Maybe he's just going to follow us in. I guess we're going to bring the pilot on here. This is obviously a war memorial up here. Somebody suggested that it was to the Second World War. I think we just had one of our flashes of lightning, which have been going on for the last 12 hours. Come in here, we have a real reception committee. They got the band going here now. How about that? Music and all for the landing. Even in the rain, there's music. Here in Sevastopol. I guess we're going to go inside for a tour, plus we're going to visit the Lenin tomb after we've been inside the cathedral. We were just saying that the local friendly church cat is a very friendly cat. I think people must feed her a bit. Hello, pussycat. I think you get looked after. I think I got the picture of, I think from the harbor in Sevastopol. Lenin is always very much in the same pose. We were just joking that if we just walk down from the Catholic Church, which is behind us, and of course he's facing out over the harbor and away from the church. I'll get a picture of there's another view from the harbor that we came in, and this freighter that's coming in through the gap is where we came in this morning. We're sitting up here at the Lenin Memorial in the Catholic Church up on the hill, and you can see a view of the harbor in Sevastopol that we've just come in this morning, and that freighter is coming in right where we. The lady was just explaining that there are 3 more main streets and 4 main squares here in Sevastopol. I understand this is the one, the central one here. There's a monument over here to my right. I haven't got a picture of, but and Not too sure what this one is up here, but it's very pretty. This monument was built to commemorate the siege of Sevastopol in 1941, 1942. You can see the fellow with the machine gun up in the top. The country, or the city was sieged by the Germans and taken over by them after an 8-month siege in 41, 42. I guess it was liberated again in 1944.
Troops landed in the vicinity of Sevastopol, and it was rather unexpected for Russian army, for Russian fleet. Nobody, almost nobody expected that Sevastopol would be sieged. And their life consisted of 8 bastions. They circled the city in the form of the huge horseshoe. From the Sevastopol Bay, they went in this direction. The first and the second.
We've been sitting up in these cannon compounds. You can look down in here. The siege of Sevastopol, 1853, 1854. It was for how long a period? It was, the siege went on for quite a period of time. 11 months? Yeah. This whole complex here that we've been around is a memorial to the siege of Sevastopol in 1854 and 1855. We were up there on the gun emplacement, and they have all around here a series of pictures and of the siege. Went on for 11 months, a memorial to it. We're not going to go in this, but there's a whole inside panorama of, there just seems to be long lines for it this morning, so we're not going to get there. It is down in the shopping district. They have this fellow.
Знаешь, они как сейчас, как
Longer trip. We are going to Bakhchisarai, and the trip will take us 1 hour and 10 minutes approximately. And please notice that ATM machine, which is to the right, is functioning. And thanks to a tourist from our group, I know it now for sure, and I can recommend it. So,
have driven up from Sevastopol to Bakhchisarai, up here to the Khan Palace. It's about an hour and 15-minute drive. And now we're going to go on a tour of the palace. We're getting the tickets here to them. As you can see, it's been raining again, but it's been so dry and so hot here. All the folks are pretty happy to see the rain. And it's not affecting us too much this afternoon. Temperature's pretty nice.
Bakhchisarai, the Turkish it is translated as palace in garden. There were a lot of gardens here, and here you can see the plan of their palace, where with white paint were shown buildings which exist now, covered buildings with Khan. And this was the main entrance of the palace. Now we are going to there. The 19th century, under the reign of Queen Khan, and there is And a very beautiful legend is connected with erection of this fountain. Do you hear me well? No? Can you please come closer? So when he was already not so young, very beautiful woman was brushed to keep her inside. And they filled their pouch. These were the roses. This is the human's heart. When the sorrow is unbearable, when the bowl is full and sorrow is unbearable, then these tears drop further into the next house, and so on the whole goes till the bottom of the flower where they end. And the next room is the example of our living room.
This is an example of a living room.
France in 18th century, and this one on the left wall is made in 17th century in Iran. In front of this carpet, women could pray in hurry. You see the cradle. I thought that, and after boys were 7 years old, they were took to special schools, and daughters, girls were brought here, were taught here to knit, to embroider, to leave the house. Still 6 kilo gold on neck. And now we are in the room where
It's interesting that the Crimea here is really a melting pot of East and West. The guide was telling us there are over 130 different ethnic groups that live here in the Crimea, in the Crimea. And I never realized it was as complex as that. Russian Navy, which was excellent. But I thought as we went around the harbor here, I'd catch this picture of our boat, which is we're walking back to. It's just here over on the other side. But here you can see all our ship all lit up at night. We sail again tomorrow night for that. Today is Friday, the 3rd of August. It's going to be a beautiful day here in the Crimea. It's about 6:20 in the morning. We have an early start this morning, and we're taking buses down to Yalta from Sevastopol. And then when we get back this evening, we're going to sail back across the Black Sea to Odessa. So it's going to be a full day. They say buses to Yalta with box lunches. I think I would have preferred to have gone to a restaurant in Yalta, but that's the way it's going to be. But as you can see, it's the rain has passed through. They've really needed the rain here, though. Everywhere we've gone, they've had a very hot, parched summer. I can't believe there's much in the way of fish in here, but there's a young fisherman sitting here, hoping off the bow of the boat that he's going to catch something in the harbor here this morning. And if you looked at the refuse around the water and around the docks, you'd wondered why he wanted to eat the fish, but I guess he does. Some wild dogs in this town. It's interesting here in Sevastopol, the number of Russian flags that are flying up here on the all the public buildings. I think within my view here up on the hill, there are at least 3. So this whole debate over independence is far from over. And in the Ukraine here, certainly there is a very large Russian population, and to say that the Ukraine is independent and it's going to have independence away from Russia and move more towards the West, I think there's still going to be a lot of debate about that.
And this beautiful place has another name, Crimean Africa. I think it's a beautiful big flower orchid. So there are about 40 kinds of orchid in the world. They told us that one day they swim in the sea in the evening, the temperature was 22 degrees, but in the morning, next day, 9 degrees above zero because of these underwater currents. And we need maybe 2 or 3 days for the water to become warm again. But maybe 2 or 3 years ago, for 5 weeks, days for other places with warm water because they could not swim. It's very beautiful. I like the color of the sea today.
We're really just about 30 kilometers from Yalta, over on the southern coast here now of the we stopped to take a picture of this little church up here. Oh, I think I've got it up on the hill. Church, live and well. Here's the main road, and when you look down over here, of course, you can, the Black Sea. The climate is particularly good for people with lung infections, and there's a whole lot of tuberculosis sanatoriums over here. I'll just pick up again that this is the Church of the Christ Resurrection. Here's one of the castles that I'm sure we'll see a number of along here in Yalta, the Swallow's Nest. You'd think it was right off the Rhine River. It's an absolutely beautiful day down here in Yalta. Gorgeous weather. Here's another very good view of the Swallow Castle along the coast here. Actually, there's a lot of boat activity down here. There seems to be a number of ferry boats. Well, we have a tour here, Lavadia Palace. It was really built by Nicholas II in 1914, and I believe he only visited here 4 years. But the whole area seems to have the Russian aristocracy around. We just passed a restaurant, but they pointed out that Putin had lunch here just off the property here a bit. It's a very warm day. We're going to be here for an hour and a half. This is a plaque commemorating the Yalta Conference of 1945 with Stalin, Roosevelt, and Churchill. I hope it comes out a bit, but it's probably not very clear.
I told you that in most of the rooms we can see fireplace. They go for decoration here, but and only during Yacht Conference in February they used for warming the rooms here. So Yacht Conference had taken place here for a week, since the 4th of February till the 11th of February, 1945. So the delegations came first to the city of Saki here in Crimea, and from Saki here by cars to Levadia Palace. And interesting fact that every 50, 100 meters, so special government, so the security service were standing on the way, so it is a long way from there. So you can see them on these pictures. And in this picture, you can see how they were sitting at the table at which they had 8 plenary meetings. So we can imagine 3 armchairs for meetings and conferences. Now you can see the biggest room here. It is 218 square meters, the area of it. It is about 8 meters high. And you can see it is decorated with 4 marble columns, each of them from 1 piece of marble. And the question, the problem of lighting was very interesting solved here. You can see a very wide, big window. When Nicholas II was here, it was his waiting room. So people waited here for the invitation of the Tsar to his study. But when Franklin Roosevelt was here, it was his study. So when we waited for Roosevelt here, everything was decorated here in his favorite color. He liked blue color. So blue curtains, blue coverings on the beds, even blue telephone was here. So, and Franklin Roosevelt used to say that blue color enjoyed his blue eyes. And we can see that of other color marble here at the fireplace. And we can see in the picture Joseph Stalin and Franklin Roosevelt during one of their private conversations. The back of the sofa, of the bed of which he slept, red color. Here, so wood panels, this beautiful mirror of red wood. Yes, is it mahogany? These beautiful fireplaces. So they survived since that time, and this beautiful chandelier of the night have this wife. She died, and Roosevelt and Churchill, they decided to take their daughters with them. Stalin did not take his dining room. And on the last day of the Yalta conference, he gave lunch here for the heads of the governments of England and Great Britain and Soviet Union. You can see them in these pictures, how they were sitting at the table. And the last important documents were signed here. So they took away the plates and signed some documents. And you can see one of it. You will see that from rooms we have a very beautiful view to the park and to the sea. So of course the atmosphere here is very good. And looking at this table, you can imagine how Nicholas II was sitting here and working. We can see here some albums, some manuscripts, some papers survived since our days. And the most attractive here is this carpet. It was when Romanovs celebrated 300th anniversary of their dynasty. of Romanov dynasty, 1930. And looking at it, you can see that the features of the face, their bodies, they are not very natural, because it was one of the first experiences of depicting people. Because according to the Muslim traditions, it was not allowed to depict people, only flowers, maybe and some others. It was one of the first experiences. And as see in this picture, you can see how they are with French teacher, with Russian teacher, I would say. And you can see around picture the portrait of the designer of this, the child of Nicholas II, his wife, and their servants. They were shot in Russian city Ekaterinburg. And before it, when Nicholas II refused from his throne, he asked to allow him to live here in Levada, not in the palace, in any house, like a civil person. But he was not allowed to do it, and they were sent to Ekaterinburg. So now all of us, we know about the tragic end of this noble Tsar family.
Oh, here we are down on the waterfront in Yalta. It's really a gorgeous day. Liz and I are looking for the beach. There's lots of boats around down here, but they tell us there's some beach down here too. So we'll see if we can't find a beach and some beer. Well, you know, we've been looking for the beach down here, so we finally found the beach. It's a pretty rocky beach, and it's not very long. There's lots of boats on either side, but the beach itself is very, very small and really quite crowded. Of course, it's a beautiful day, and it's really quite warm out here. But here's what it all looks like. Lots of bars, lots of everything else, but very little beach. Just one more pan shot of what this beach looks like. But I must say I'm not awfully impressed with the whole scene here. So that's pretty impressive. We're back here in Sevastopol. It's about 4:30. And here are three of the riverboats in. The one on the left is ours, but two others have arrived. We sail at 6 o'clock, which is just over a little hour from now. The busy port brings a lot of people in. Every one of those boats must be 500 people on those three boats. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. The third boat out is, it's just 6 o'clock and we're supposed to be going. The third boat out is moving backwards a little bit. So we'll see where everybody goes from here. This is going to be a very busy harbor here this evening. There's one of these ferry boats. It's interesting how heavily loaded these boats are. Again, here's our third fellow. Let's see where he goes. Well, it looks like what's happening here is we've moved the third boat way, way over. And the sister ship to this is just moving away from us a bit and moving back. And I suppose in a few minutes, they'll pull us back out of here. Here we are pulling away from the dock. I think we'll just pull out backwards and then let this other ship that's over here on the other side just move in where we are. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. And the third one, he's way over here. Wait, we hadn't seen this before, but there's a swimming pier right off where we've been. There's a whole lot of people in the water, but you can see them over here on the pier. They just had a big vote here as to which building last night we went to see the Red Army chorus. And it was in this building last night. You can have your choice of this one. There's a whole big argument as to which one of the buildings it was. Well, as we leave the port, there's a sister ship that was next to us pulling back into our state. I switch over here to the right, which I'm not going to do. Setting western. It's interesting. That must be the pilot boat coming up, but I guess we must have the pilot on board now. But I guess they're going to, as we go through the gap here, they'll pick him up. Down in the bay here, you can pick up a couple of naval ships. And this, of course, here on the Black Sea was, Sevastopol was a major, and still is, a major Russian naval place. This was just saying, as the sun goes down, it really begins to look quite dark and quite black out there on the sea. So we've decided this really is, we are, Liz, on the Black Sea. I must be. We sail overnight to Odessa. Did we get in the morning or not? Oh, we go to another, well, here's the harbor that we've just all pulled out of. Bye-bye to Sevastopol. We've been here for 2 nights and 2 days, which I hope I've recorded well. We're going to head out into the open gap here on the Black Sea again. We have an overnight excursion to Odessa. So as we leave the port, this is just a very pretty view of the port and the city with the setting sun in the west. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Saturday, August the 4th. We've been sailing overnight from Sevastopol to Odessa. We left Sevastopol about 6 p.m. last night, and we get into Odessa about noon. So it must be a distance of about 250 miles. It's a beautiful day, a fairly calm sea here on the Black Sea. And we're looking forward to an exciting afternoon in the beautiful city of Odessa.
Will feel great restraint in refraining, resisting the temptation to ask us all about embarkation in 2 days, the program for Bucharest and departure information. All of that information is now being printed, ladies and gentlemen. It will all be in your cabins tonight, pages upon pages and pages. Keep it, ladies and gentlemen, because you'll have the daily programs for every day for the remainder of the cruise, plus the program for Bucharest, plus the departure information. You don't need to read it all before you go to bed. Just know you've got it. Don't put it in the rubbish bin as you disembark. Keep it with you.
Certainly short. Cataclysmic kind of diplomatic arena called the Yalta Conference. Before we do that, I'd like to say to you that you are crossing on a very unusual day one of the most dangerous bodies of water you could ever cross. They're usually storms that come up from nowhere. I've been on this body of water when I was praying for death to arrive. The Greeks knew it as Pontus, and they never went out into deep water. They followed the coast all the way around rather than taking any some shortcut. So know that you're very lucky today. Also know that it's a very sad event in the history of this sea. It's always been a difficult sea in ecological terms, and the Black Sea is done. In New York. New York was full of thieves. In New York City, the thieves were called Democrats. That is Tammany Hall. Tammany Hall was like you people who live in Chicago and have a machine there that's named after your mayor. Or you people from Boston who know something about the Kennedy machine. Or we in San Francisco would have the Burton machine. And so it was that there was Tammany Hall. Of George Marshall, we agreed with Churchill to invade Rick's Bar in Casablanca. Our first attempt to overthrow the German military machine was to land in Morocco. This was not very impressive to Stalin. First of 3 conferences, they go to Tehran. Now, Stalin was determined not to leave, if possible, the Soviet Union, and if to leave, only to run next door.
PM, and we're here at the Potemkin Steps. They're really just up from the harbor. We came up by bus here, and we're going on a 30 to 40 minute walking tour before we get back on our buses. Odessa is a multicultural city of over 1 million people. Really, it was a man by the name of Richelieu who really escaped the guillotine, I think, in Paris, and moved here and became the mayor and really did a lot for the city. So I'm sure there's a very heavy French overlay to Odessa. Well, obviously, we have a wedding here and a wedding party, and I thought I should get a picture of them right here at the top of the Potemkin steps. It's interesting reading about Odessa and the layout of the city with its parks and its wide boulevards. And even here, as you look down, there's a real European influence. And I hope this comes out on the camera, but this is a beautiful wide boulevard with lots of trees. And over here is a European type cafe. It's again, a gorgeous day here. Must be 25, 28 degrees C. And the sun is shining.
We are very close to the former commodity exchange. You will appreciate it at the beginning of this distance, but you will certainly appreciate it without this ugly nose. It's Saturday, today is the day off, but
we're just saying that Odessa is obviously going through a reconstruction period where an awful lot of the buildings are being fixed up, so there's got to be money here to do that. Also, as you walk the streets and look at the cars and the maintenance of the buildings, it's just got to be the wealthiest of the cities that we've seen on this tour. Oh, this is the Opera House? Oh, well, now I know. I was just saying how there's a lot of money being spent around here to fix up these buildings. It certainly seems to be the wealthiest city we've seen on this tour. Here's our bus number 5 group. I don't know if I've got a picture of them all. So let's see who we can pick up on this. Well, I'm going to try again. I had a whole group come in front of me when I was taking this a minute ago. So let's see if we can't get bus number 5 here. Odessa is just a very, very busy seaport here on the Black Sea. We've watched the container ships up here and all of these cranes operating. There seems to be a lot of steel. We've seen some scrap iron here and also a lot of rolled steel products. And you can see all the cranes here. We watched a container ship come in a while ago, and it was just a very impressive sight. I think there's one over here. I think I've got him in the thing right now. We figured he's got 700 or 800 containers on him. Let's see if I can get a picture of this container ship here.
The glad to see you as the quest of our city. We want to present to string quintet from Odessa Philharmonica Eskiz. Mozart, Divertimento F-dur.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
Today is Sunday, the 5th of August. Another very pleasant day, a little bit cloudy, warm. We've entered Romanian waters and we stopped here at 10 a.m. this morning to clear customs in Slovenia. And then we proceed on for the day. This afternoon we'll go on a tour of the delta of the Danube River, which empties here into the Black Sea. I don't know if you can see this in the background, but there's something over here to the right, the first of land that we've seen. We've had a good night's travel, very quiet. The sea has been quiet, and this is our last full day on the ship. That is right here. The first of land is showing up again. There's land here to starboard. I'll see if this comes out on the camera. It should. When I zoom in. We disembarked the ship early tomorrow morning, and there's about a 3-hour bus ride into Bucharest, Romania, where we're going to be staying for 2 nights at the Intercontinental Hotel, and then home. I think he put up about We're just saying, as we're working our way up into the Danube River here, there's a lot of cows out here on the, and this is a pretty healthy looking bull that I can see in here. Oh, he's having a look at us now. He's saying, what are you guys doing over here? Disturbing my peace and tranquility. Well, I'd say we've pretty much left the Black Sea now and are entering the Danube River system. We're down here in the delta of the Danube. And I guess ships can get up here and into the Danube along this canal. It's interesting, we have both a pilot boat and a customs boat. The pilot boat is left, but the customs boat with 6 customs officers is tied up and is being pulled along with us on the side here while the customs fellows are doing their duty inside. Whoa. We have certainly been going slow as we've come in here, but you can see this little Russian Orthodox church here and the boats along the shore. This is the town of Salinas in Romania. We've had the customs people on board for over an hour now, but they seem to be working away down there. The crew seems to be prying them with food. We've certainly left the Black Sea by now, and we're in the estuary of the Danube River. I guess as we work our way up here, we've lost all traces of the sea. Well, we've cleared through Salinas, and the customs fellows have left. The boat has picked up a bit of speed here, and it's interesting to see another cruise boat coming the other way. We are parked here in Tulsia and on the Danube River. We've come in the Danube River Delta for about a couple of hours. They said the Delta runs up about 30 miles before you hit to the river proper. And now we're going on a 4-hour small boat tour through the Delta to see the all of the birds and animals and vegetation of the area. It's a beautiful afternoon. It's 3 o'clock, and there's our ship in the background. It's warm and windy, but it must be about 30 degrees Celsius, and I'd say with a fairly good breeze blowing, so it's going to be a pleasant afternoon. I just got the correct pronunciation for this town. It's called Turcia. We got it right this time. Turcia. Well, we're off on our tour. This tour of the Danube Delta is going to be about 4 hours, and we'll be home shortly after 7 o'clock. There are 4 boats involved. This is the first. We're the second to pull out just behind it.
We'll be taking this route. Lake. We'll be very close to the lake, but we won't be entering it because it's protected by law, which is called the Crazy Man's Lake. Yes, we will go here, and from here we'll get back to the harbor in Tulcia. 2 hours to the lake, more or less, and 2 more hours back from the lake to the harbor in Tulcia. In the mountains named the Black Forest. And it finishes this journey here in Romania, flowing into the Black Sea. But before flowing into the Black Sea, it divides itself in 3 distinct branches. And the delta is formed between these 3 branches, ladies and gentlemen. It's made up of many narrow canals, woods, banks. But we didn't succeed. We didn't succeed in completing this strange idea.
It's interesting as we've come up this tributary, this small tributary, there's campers. There's campers all along the route here and these beaches. I think there's more people up here. And then if I switch over here, where is he? Oh, there he is right ahead. There seems to be a series of houseboats. Certainly commercial houseboats. That one has a Coca-Cola machine at the back. And so they must bring them up here for the day or something.
Some days we can have also 30 degrees Celsius, very hot, very warm. And in September, we have 21 degrees Celsius. The level of the water in June is 20 degrees Celsius, and in September is 18 degrees Celsius.
Do you really think these guys are wild? They look pretty domestic to me. Well, today is Monday, August the 6th. We leave the ship this morning and go by bus to Bucharest. It's about a 4-hour drive. We're going to go for 2.5 hours and then have a break, and then the other hour and a half out to lunch, and we get to the Intercontinental Hotel in Bucharest about 2:30 this afternoon. They have a very good program here where they're going to take all our luggage off ahead of time and take it by a separate truck. So they tell us that when we get there this afternoon, it will all be in our rooms.
Away the land from the private property of peasants, and it became state properties. All their cattle or their animals were taken from their homes and put in these big farms to be exploited, so to say, together. So now that means that Transylvania, Moldavia, and Malaysia came together to build the now modern Romania. This happened in the 20th century. It was so that all the people in these countries.
We've been trying to get one of these. Whoops! Oh, what? Here is the Parliament building in Bucharest, formerly the House of the People, Congress of the People. Ceausescu, when he built this boulevard, took down about 40,000 houses, I think, to do this.
That means the Union Junction. To our right-hand side, the Union Shopping Center. The biggest shopping center in Bucharest.
There's the Intercontinental Hotel ahead where we're going to be staying for the next 2 nights.
But now we go straight to the restaurant, as I told you, in the Chișmigiu Park.
Well, today is Tuesday, August the 7th. Here we are in Romania, in Bucharest. As you can tell, it's a rainy day. It started raining last night and it's so dry. We looked as we came across from the ship yesterday, all the fields of sunflowers were just all dried out. It's been a very dry, hot summer here, so they're very grateful for the rain. This is the last day of our trip. We're here at the Intercontinental Hotel and we have a beautiful room up here on the 17th floor with balconies and everything. And we're going on the city tour this morning. Bucharest is a city of about 2.2 million people. As you can see, we're going to have a really rainy day here, and we're going to see the village today. We're going on the city tour all morning for about 3 or 4 hours, and this is the first stop, which is the village, which is obviously a selection of small or old. This village was all developed as a sociological experiment in the 1930s. And all of these houses, etc., have all been trucked in here from other locations. I guess they're keeping them in very good shape, but they are very pretty houses. Just thought this little church was so pretty. In the rain, I've let Liz go ahead and I get a picture of it here. I think we're going to visit this church here. But again, all of these buildings are being well maintained and upkept. They're really in great shape.
Before a very impressive crowd, more than 10,000 people were here in this square. And it's in this square that the revolution, the Romanian Revolution, started. Okay. So You can see it right here. At the entrance, you will see the flags. There's a balcony. Here held Ceausescu his last speech, and from of an older church from the 16th century. This one is from the 18th century. Actually, a very important event took place some 4 days ago. The patriarch died. And you can see all around the church, there are lots of flowers which were put there in his memory. Then there's the building of the patriarch. It's like the White House, so to say, in the States. Is where the patriarch lives. Also a very beautiful building here on, you will see it on your right hand side.
Here we are in our hotel room in Bucharest. I'm looking over at the People's Palace here, which we went on a tour of yesterday. Awfully impressive. The building is the second largest building in the world after the Pentagon in Washington. Ceausescu built it, never set up his government in it, and of course he was shot and murdered in 1989. But when you go on a tour, it's very impressive. We're flying home to Boston today. We leave at 2:30. It's just about 10:30 now. We leave at 2:30 for Frankfurt, and then at 5 o'clock we catch a flight from Frankfurt to Boston, and we're going to stay at the Comfort Inn at the Logan Airport tonight, and go on to New Canaan tomorrow morning. So this is the end of our trip. One just wanted me to record that it is also Philip's birthday. I've got the cell phone out, and when we get closer to Boston, we'll probably be able to give him a call tonight. Saturday afternoon, and drove to Boston.
It's over.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
That was a long video.
yes, very long.